You're watching Mrs. K's Healthy Eating Channel, and we're here to help you to eat well and get cooking. Morning everyone, welcome back to Mrs. K's kitchen. Right, today we're going to be making banana muffins, and I want to talk through with you why we're making them and looking at the various ingredients and what they provide for us nutritionally. So I'm going to go through it step by step, so if any children or kids are making, I will be going through the steps. If I go too fast, you can always pause it and catch up. But first of all, we're going to look at getting the oven ready first. Okay, so that's the first thing. The first thing on our recipe is we put our oven on to 180, 170 if you've got a fan oven. So I've just put that oven on, and what I've done is I've lined my cases. So you take a tray with 12 muffin cases, and you use muffin cases. Don't use cup cases because they are too small for muffins. Okay, so I've got my muffin cases ready, and the recipe should make exactly 12. If it makes a few extra, you can always add in, but they should be nice and full when you make them. Okay, so let's start off. We're going to need some flour, first of all. And the recipe says 200 grams of flour. Now you can choose. You could make 200 grams of plain flour, or 200 grams of wholemeal flour, which is what I prefer, or you could have a compromise and do half and half, so 100 of one and 100 of the other. And that's normally what I do at school, is I recommend half and half. But if I was making them for myself, I'd probably go for 200 of wholemeal. So let's measure up. Be accurate in your measurements. If you've got a digital scale, that's even better. So we've got 100 grams. Whoops, that's too much. So 100 grams of plain flour. Now, why would I even want to use wholemeal flour? I hope you know the answer to that. So that's 100. I don't need to take the flour out, or I could put it straight into I'm going to sieve the flour. So I'm going to put the sieved flour in here. Take this out there so that you can see what's going on, and then I'm going to do 100 grams of wholemeal flour. So this recipe makes a good 12 muffins. Okay, so I'm going to sieve that plain flour in, and as you can see, this is the reason I'm using wholemeal. There's nothing left in my sieve. When I use wholemeal flour, just before I sieve this wholemeal flour, I'm just going to add my baking powder and my various things that I need to add to the flour. Now we're going to add half a teaspoon of baking powder. Half a teaspoon. Don't do it heaped, do it absolutely flat. So half a teaspoon of baking powder. And 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. Now, bicarbonate of soda is lumpy, so we always have to sieve bicarbonate of soda, because bicarbonate of soda has a really horrible soapy taste, and we don't want any of that in our food. I'm also going to put in a teaspoon of cinnamon. Now, I do like teaspoon. You can have a heaped teaspoon of this if you like. You could even add more cinnamon if you like cinnamon. So I'm going to add 1½ spoon of cinnamon because we love cinnamon. Right, now we're going to sieve this to make sure that it's light and airy. That's why we sieve. We don't sieve to get any bits out. We sieve to make the mixture light and fluffy. So I can now see bits, white lumps of bicarbonate of soda. That's what we want to make sure we sieve, because we don't want those lumps going straight into people's mouths because they are yuck. Now, you can see what we've got left in our sieve. Now, if you've watched the Eat Well Guide series, session 2, you will know from that this is called fibre. And that is what we want in our diets. We want fibre because these bits prevent what? They prevent constipation and they prevent long-term colon cancer. So we need those bits in, and we want it. That's why you could use all wholemeal flour. Okay, so these will be then much healthier things to make for lunch boxes. They're ideal for lunch boxes actually, but for a much healthier snack than cake, and yet they taste so good. Right, so we've got our flour, so we're going to put sift together all that, and we're going to put that to one side. I'll put it over here, out of the way. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to mash our bananas. Now, we've got, the secret is overripe bananas. If you use fresh bananas, the reason we don't use fresh bananas is because they're not as sweet. Because I'm afraid, I know you don't like to look at black bananas, but, and when they've got bruises on, it's even more off-putting, but actually, the riper the banana, the sweeter they are, and we are making a muffin, a banana muffin, and so we want to have that sweetness, otherwise it affects the taste of the muffin. So, I have even sometimes, these bananas are only a week old. I've had this banana in the fridge, and as soon as you put banana skins in the fridge, they go black. It doesn't mean the banana inside here is black. So I'm going to, whenever I have bananas that become overripe and nobody wants to eat them, I pop them in my fridge, which extends the life of them inside, and then I make banana muffins. So the reason, one of the reasons we're making these banana muffins today is because we don't want to throw away old bananas. We're just learning that food waste is really, really bad. It's bad for the environment and it's wasteful, totally and utterly wasteful. And it basically, when we waste food, I always say to my pupils, when you waste food, I know you can't give what's on your plate to starving people, but what you are saying to starving people is, I don't care. I've got plenty to waste, so why should I care? And that, it's the attitude. I think that's the most important thing that we need to look at. And do you know what? In Britain, 70% of what we throw away could actually still be edible. That is frightening, because most of us don't understand best before, which is a recommendation and doesn't mean it's off after the BBE date. And also we throw away bruised fruit when actually we can use them. But the good news is loads of people are using bruised fruit or older fruit for smoothies, which is wonderful. But I love to use my bananas for banana muffins. Right, okay, so that's our banana ready. Now we're going to put that into a large bowl. Put our bananas in there. And those are nice big bananas. If you've got small bananas, then you could easily have 4 bananas. So I'm going to put all my banana skins on here. So if I had little ones like this, then I would probably use 4. These are nice big ones. And don't forget, you need to mash on a flat place. Don't try and mash in a bowl. It's way too difficult. So keep it flat. Okay, so what are we, my hands are just a little bit mucky, so I'm just going to go and wash my hands. So excuse me a sec. So, what's next? Now we've got to measure our sugar. Now, sugar in this recipe was 150 grams. Because we need to become sugar savvy, if you've watched the YouTube session 6, we need to start cutting down on our sugar. And because the bananas are so ripe, They are very sweet. And I'm going to add some raisins, which are also sweet. I am cutting down on my sugar. But even if I didn't add raisins, I would still cut down on the sugar, because when we start cutting down the sugar little by little, we start to get used to a taste that is not quite so sweet. And we've done these at school many a time, and we've used reduced sugar, and no one has noticed. So that is the answer. So we're going to find out that using 120 grams of sugar, and note the sugar I'm using, soft brown sugar. I'm not using white sugar. I never use white sugar if I can help it. You could also use coconut sugar for these muffins. That would work just as well. And I think you could probably use stevia. Right, so I've got 120 grams of light brown sugar, which I'm going to add into here. Now, the beauty of this recipe, there's one egg, so I've got one egg. You should use a large egg if you've got. Now, this is what I love about banana muffins, is we're using healthy fats. Now, actually the recipe calls for melted butter, but I've discovered that you can swap melted butter for oil. And we've learnt in our fat sessions, good fats, bad fats, in the Eat Well Guide series, that these oils are unsaturated fat and they are much better for you. So these actually reduce the bad cholesterol. So we're adding 60 mils of oil, right? Don't use olive oil because olive oil is too strong. So we're just going to use a lighter tasting. Right, so we've now got our sugar, bananas, egg, oil in a large bowl, and we're going to stir in this. We're going to mix it all up. You can always beat your egg beforehand, before you put it in. But I'm just, now, the thing with brown sugar, light brown sugar, is that it is lumpy. So you may want to stir this really well, get all the lumps out. Otherwise, when you bite, at least it's not a soapy taste. I mean, you could bite into a big lump of sugar, it would be rather nice, but we want to have our sugar all nice and smooth. So we're going to mix this. We don't want to over-mix a muffin mixture once the flour is in. So all the mixing you do needs to be done on this section with just without the flour. Because once we add the flour, it's not the flour so much, it's the baking powder and the bicarbonate. Because as soon as you add your bicarbonate of soda, it starts to react. As soon as you add bicarb of soda to liquid, any liquid, and here we've got egg and oil, it starts to activate the bicarbonate of soda. And therefore, it will be starting to rise in the dish before it's even gone into the oven. And so the longer it stays out, the less your muffins will rise. So we're going to make sure all our lumps of sugar are out, and we're going to mix that nicely. Oh, here's one more big one. I think we're just about there now. Right, okay. I'm also going to add some raisins to mine, as well as some nuts and seeds. Now, nuts and seeds, the reason I'm adding it, it's nice texture. You could add walnuts as well, but adding nuts, seeds, or walnuts is high in omega-3 and omega-6. And these are essential fats that you need. They are extremely healthy for your brain, and they also are good cholesterol, so they get rid of the bad cholesterol. Now, you could actually take a tablespoon. I would say take a tablespoon, or just sprinkle some in. I just sprinkle some in. So there we go. I've got a seed mix here. Pumpkin seeds are really nice, and sunflower seeds are full of good oils. And I'm going to take some raisins, and again, measure half a cup of raisins, or just take a handful of sultanas or raisins. Another thing you could use here is chopped dates. In fact, you could really use any dried fruit. You could even have chopped apricots. Okay, so that will also, raisins will be nice because they'll sweeten, and dates as well. Okay, So now I'm ready. All we have to do now is add in our flour, like that. And now we don't want to mix vigorously, we just want to mix in fairly gently our flour, fold it in, and because that's the secret to good muffins, is not to over mix the flour when it's in. So you would never use an electric whisk or anything like that. Just use a spoon. And that's what's so nice about these muffins, is that you just need a couple of bowls and a spoon. You don't need any fancy equipment. Dead easy to make. Right, now that is about the right consistency, like that. That's why please make sure you measure your oil very accurately, because your oil, if you add too much, your muffins are going to be greasy. So I've actually, when I measured my oil, I used something with very fine indentation so I could measure it accurately. And 60 mils is actually the equivalent of 4 tablespoons. So you could be even more, if you wanted to be very accurate, you could use tablespoons. Now, when you put your muffins in, you take in fact, it's better to have a tablespoon rather than, this is a dessert spoon. So I'm just going to grab a tablespoon so that I can get a nice big amount of mixture. You either need 2 spoons or a spoon and a spatula, so that you keep that you can easily spoon your muffin mixture in. Take a big tablespoon. Now, you do not want to dribble any of your mixture onto your pan, because that means you're going to have a lot of scrubbing to do afterwards. So very carefully, I always do that with my spoon so that I get off any drips. So I do that, and then I pick it up and put it on. So far, let's see if I can put all my mixture on without messing a single thing on my tray. That's a good competition. We often do that at school. Who can put their muffin mixture in without messing 1 drop of mixture of dough on their tin? And if you can do that, then I must say that is pretty impressive. Now, as you can see, I think I might only just get 12. So if you don't get 12, it's fine. But it does make, and you don't want to have empty muffin tins. Whoops, that was close. I nearly had a drip there. Well, I can't believe it. I've got no drips. So I'm going to now take this last bit and fill them up, because some of them are not very full. Because we like to have, because the mixture is quite heavy with the banana, it doesn't rise hugely, so don't make them too empty because they won't rise. And use a spatula like this, because it gets rid of all the bits around the side of your dish. Better in the bowl, better in the mixture in the muffin tins than in the bowl, which then goes into the sink. Okay, right, well there we go. That's done. You could decorate the top of your muffins with some oats. All ready, straight into the oven for 20 minutes. So I'll clean up and see you at the end of our 20 minutes.